People who have been denied when they proposed, why did it happen, and what was the end result? Story 1. I'm the denier. I had been dating this girl for 6 months, and it was going pretty well. We hardly ever fought, but when we did, it was hard for us to get back to normal. At a good point, she said, I feel like I should pop the question. I have absolutely no poker face, and she instantly saw that I wasn't on board. As a child of the 80s, all of my friends had parents who'd divorced, and I'd made an oath to myself that I was just going to be married once. I liked this girl a lot, but I wasn't convinced yet that we had something that was going to last forever. So we stayed together, went to couples counseling, and learned how to fight. It sounds strange, but I can't tell you how effective it was. We learned that my conflict pattern is to constantly work on a problem until it's solved, where her pattern is to blow off steam over time. The result was that I would keep conversations going when we fought, and would basically chase her around, keeping her mad and blocking her attempts at breaking off to cool down. I learned to just let her be mad, and check back in later. And she learned to say, I just need to be by myself for a bit. It worked. A good relationship with rough fights turned into a great relationship with mature, low-drama fights. Conflicts that used to hang a dark cloud over the house for days were now resolved in hours. At that point, I felt comfortable enough to say yes to a year-long engagement, and we've now been married 18 years, have supported each other through thick and thin, and are raising 2 awesome kids. The only regret I have is that we ended up without a proposal story, as it was effectively negotiated over time. I did get on my knees and present a ring at a fancy dinner, but even then it was a ring we'd picked out together, as she was a jewelry smith. Well, to me it seems like you've proven that good relationships aren't just about romance and roses, but also about hard work and willingness to compromise. Who needs a fancy proposal story when you have a solid foundation like this and great communication and understanding? Story 2. 8 years ago. It's been 8 years. We had known each other for 5 years, dated for 3.5. Every single day I saw her was the best day of my life. We met while working at a pizza chain and had gotten close at work. I eventually worked up the courage to ask her out, even though it was awfully frowned upon, as she was a driver and I was a manager. She said yes, and we went to a party together and literally didn't talk to a single other soul that night. I was hooked. We dated for a year and then moved in together. I can still see her face perfectly, even that long ago. Her family was wonderful. Her father, an esteemed professor at a nearby college, and her mother was a cancer survivor with a heart of gold. Everything just seemed to fit, and I knew that I wanted to be with her forever. After dating for 3 years, I finally popped the question. I had set up a normal night in, ordered a pizza, and had a nice little night in. We had a cat, Triumph, a nice little apartment, and the whole shebang. I had tied a little pillow with the ring on to try, and sat her in the other room while my lady was in the bathroom. When she got back, I called for the cat, and she came in, pillow and all on her back. I proposed, and she burst into tears, saying she was sorry, and ran out of the apartment. I tried desperately to reach her, through family, friends, any way imaginable. I finally heard back from her sister after 3 days. Her entire family knew, and I was apparently the only person out of the loop. She was diagnosed with a very aggressive terminal brain cancer just 3 days prior to me proposing. I was gutted. For so many reasons, but I could understand why she didn't tell me. After I had proposed, she told her sister that she had decided not to put me through that, but I didn't care. I would have stayed with her to the end of the earth. I tried night and day to contact her, to no avail. She passed away just 5 weeks after I had proposed. I've never felt more lost and alone than I did at her funeral. Her family were very comforting, but I began to hate myself, thinking that it was something that I had done to scare her away, making her believe that I would leave her if she told me, when it couldn't have been further from the truth. I went into a deep depression for a very long time afterwards. I drank and did drugs day and night, went from job to job, not showing up for days on end. I dropped out of school, lost a lot of my friends, considered ending my life a few times. I know now that she kept it from me to try and save me the grief of losing her, but there's nothing in the world I wouldn't give to go back in time, just to hear her say yes. Losing someone you love is never easy, but this one really hits hard. She didn't want to burden you with her illness and wanted to spare you from the pain of losing her. Those are the moments that we need people the most. You had a beautiful relationship, and even though it was cut short, the memories of her will stay with you forever. Stay strong, my friend. Story 3. Not denied during a proposal, but 99% sure she realized I was going to propose and bailed before I had the chance. 8 years and change together, everything seemed totally fine. We talked about a future together plenty of times, engagement rings, jobs, housing, kids, etc. The job and housing parts were going forward, and she had shown me rings and talked about weddings plenty, so it felt like it was time to finally do that. Bought a ring, tried planning some neat trips to take her on for an awesome proposal. They kept not happening. Finally decided I was just going to do it around New Year's, but right before that, she bailed. Timing was just so perfect for her not to have figured it out. Never really got an explanation, just the general, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. One of those kind of generic statements that you hate to get, especially after so long. But at the same time, I'm sure there was plenty of legitimacy to it. We met when we were young, and we grew into different people. People change a lot between their mid-teens and mid-20s. We tried to maintain a friendship for a while after that, but it was super hard for me because I was still totally into her. I had to basically drop off the map entirely for a year because we shared the same social circle, and I just got so incredibly uncomfortable around her. No hard feelings, I guess, at the end of the day. It sucked, but it wasn't like something awful happened between us. Eventually, we just stopped talking. She drifted to a new social group, I got back in mine, life goes on. Definitely not where I expected to be at this point in my life, though. I know, not anywhere near as exciting or interesting as some other stories. Story 4. After a Christmas vacation, we were home and I asked her about marriage. I don't want to marry you. I never wanted to marry you. I will never marry you. Followed by a 30-minute speech about missing her single life. I died a little inside, honestly. Tried to make it work, but I realize now I stopped trying after that. 8 months later, she moved out. 3 months after that, she's begging me to take her back. She wants to get married. She wants to own a house. And I'm just too hurt to believe her. Therapy is helping, but a 5-year relationship died that day. And I miss it, but I'm not sure I miss her anymore. Her addiction and alcoholism played a major role in her choice and feelings. She had apparently been using for a few months and kept it hidden. If you need help quitting heroin, go find it. It really messes up more than just your life. The people you hurt the worst are the ones you love the most. And that love for you may never end, but how much they care for you just may. Story 5. My dad proposed to my mom after they'd been seeing each other for just under 2 weeks. She laughed and basically told him he was crazy, that it was way too soon. My dad said, and he's very proud of this fact, "Fine, I asked you once, I'm not going to ask again." My mom thought he was bluffing. After a year of dating, she started giving him a hard time about not asking her to get married again, and he stuck to his guns and said she missed her chance, and he wasn't going to ask again. My mom finally broke down and asked him to marry her. Made sure she properly took the mickey out of him when she did it, too. Made a big show about asking his father for permission, got down on one knee in public, got him the gaudiest engagement ring she could find. He said yes, and they just celebrated their 30th anniversary. I can't help but smile at this one. Your dad's determination and playful stubbornness in not asking again, and your mom's playful revenge by proposing herself, just shows how much they were meant to be together. It's amazing that their relationship has stood the test of time and that they've reached 30 years of marriage. I wish them continued happiness and love in their journey together. Story 6. Not my story, but the best one I've heard. My friend's parents met at a bar down the shore. Her dad was crazy about her mom, but it was unrequited. She slept with him anyway, just a one-night stand, and ignored him after that, until she found out she was pregnant. He was over the moon, and she was intent on having the baby. He tried to be with her, but she consistently refused him, proposed to her several times, ending in eye rolls and exasperated no's from her each time. After 9 months, she went into labor and let him come with her into the delivery room, just her and this guy who had been begging her to marry him. A few hours into labor, the doctor started to notice something was wrong. The baby's heartbeat was slowing rapidly. The mother started to panic, but the father stayed calm. He stayed with her and communicated information from the doctors. but there was little anyone could do. She delivered a stillborn. After everything happened, my friend's mom realized she had found her soulmate. They finally got together and are still married to this day. Story 7. I proposed after dating my girlfriend for 2 years. I was about to graduate college and move away, and she was a year behind me. I had the ring, everything was perfectly planned. We discussed our future together. When I proposed, she initially said yes. About half an hour later, she seemed off. I asked her if anything was wrong, and she said she needed to think. We talked for a while, and then she changed her answer. She said we were too young. She wanted to be on her own for a while, to be independent, etc. Joke's on her, though, because now we're married. Story 8. Proposed to girlfriend after she got off work on a Monday with her favorite meal prepared, and the apartment all lit with candles, rose petals on the floor after having a special weekend together. She's shy and promised violence if proposed to in public. She said no, 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 no when I asked her to marry me, as she came in the door to our apartment. She worked in the medical field and had puke all over her. She showered, and then she said yes. Story 9. I proposed after 3-ish years of dating and 1 year of living together, and she said no. I was offering her my great-grandparents' wedding ring. That was Friday night. By Sunday night, after a trip to her parents, she came back and told me that she was gay. That was 22 years ago. Since then, I've been married for 16 years to the next woman I dated. My wife has the wedding ring that I offered to my ex. The gay girlfriend has been with her partner for nearly 22 years. I have a daughter, and they have a girl and a boy. I love them, and they're just the best people ever. This is a bullet we both dodged. It's great to see that everyone involved has found happiness in their own way. Sounds like everyone handled the situation with grace and respect. It's also heartwarming to hear that despite everything, you still have love and admiration for your ex-girlfriend and her family. Story 10. I turned down a proposal using the excuse that he was drunk. He was, but I knew he was serious. I drove him home and tried the old, "I want to be friends" speech, but he shut me down. He said if I didn't love him, he would just have to get over me. And he got out of the car and walked away. A day later, I realized what an idiot I was being, and I called him. Tomorrow is our 26th anniversary. Story 11. I asked, she said no because I drank way too much. I said I would get it under control. I tried bluffing and BSing instead. She saw through it and kicked me out. She was right. I don't have a clue where she is or whatever happened to her. I quit drinking now, but that was definitely my life's most cruel lesson. Story 12. Not exactly the question, but a man I had known briefly proposed to me on our 4th date. I said no, and he gave me the ring and asked me to consider it a promise ring. Flags and sirens everywhere, but I said okay, to spare his feelings, and continued to go out with him for a little while, hoping that something would develop between us, from my end. I mean, it's not every day you meet someone who is so crazy about you. It turned out he was just crazy, in general. Sorry for the pejorative term. He was mentally ill, but crazy just fits the story, and I came to understand that with time. I broke up with him and returned the ring, and he appeared to take it very badly. A few weeks later, I heard he was dating someone else I casually knew. They were married within months. Around 5 years later, he ended his own life and took his son's life in the process. Story 13. I was proposed to and said no. After 4 weeks of dating, he got down on his knee with a huge diamond ring and said a huge speech along the lines of, "When you know, you know. Will you marry me?" Since I barely knew the guy, I flat out said no, followed by, "Sorry, are you okay?" He didn't speak to me for the rest of the night, and then when he dropped me at home, I told my roommate about it. As I was telling her about it, I got a text from him, yes, a text, saying, "You've broken my heart. I never want to see you again. Goodbye. I love you." We were both 22 at the time. Story 14. She said no because she didn't think we were ready yet. She was a senior in college. I had graduated but hadn't found a good job in my field. After graduation and her getting a professional job and me getting a not quite so crappy job, we got married exactly 1 year later, on the anniversary of the day she said no the first time. 19 years and 4 kids later, it's going pretty well. Story 15. Kind of the reverse situation, but a few years ago, a girl I dated for 2 months gave me an ultimatum that if we weren't married soon, she'd leave me. There were already some issues in the relationship, so I told her to go ahead and leave. And that was a poopy proposal. She was married to some other dude 6 months later.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.